The Oracl3 Network.
We have an active shooter. We have an active shooter inside the warehouse.
Welcome to Active Shooter, a podcast that covers the whys, the hows, and the aftermath of active shooter and mass casualty events.
They have an active shooter in the building. A second call says they are being attacked.
I've been shot. 16910 means we got shots fired. 4:15 a.m. Route 91. Sounded like an automatic firearm.
Active shooter, reports of an active shooter
in mass casualty incidents.
Thank you for listening.
You are listening to Active Shooter, a podcast that may contain adult themes, explicit language, and graphic depictions of violence. Portions of this show may be traumatic for those under 18. Listener discretion is advised.
Right now, at least 7 people are being treated at hospitals after a deadly shooting at a high school in Kentucky. CNN has confirmed that so far at least 1 person has died as we are getting new information in. I want to go to CNN's Allison Hosack. You've been monitoring developments. What can you tell us, Allison?
Okay, Brianna. So the shooter is in custody. We do not know if it's a student. We do not know what his or her motive was. But yes, 7 people have been transported to hospitals. 2 of those people were taken by medical helicopter to Vanderbilt University Medical Center located in Nashville. The school, by the way, located about 20 miles southeast of Paducah, Kentucky, the school located in Benton. One other victim, a female high schooler, not sure if it's a student, but one female at the high school was shot and taken to a different hospital. She is said to be okay. Shots rang out around the time that the high school was starting the day, or right around that school was going to begin the day. And, we're hearing reports of first responders really jumping into action. Benton City Clerk Beth Cooper telling CNN that the Benton Police Department is located right inside City Hall where she is. And she said when they got the emergency call, all the officers in the police department rushed to the high school.
The shooter we will be covering today began his morning on January 23, 2018, much like any other average 15-year-old teenager would start their day. He woke up, sat at the kitchen table, and ate a bowl of cereal for breakfast. Before he could even begin preparing breakfast, the teenager realized that he had overslept and would miss the school bus as a result. This wasn't something he was stressing about, though, because his mother explained that she would be able to take him to school. However, what wasn't normal about this young man, on this day, was that he was armed and dangerous, with a Ruger Mk2 handgun, as well as a hunting knife. They were stowed neatly away in his school satchel. The young man's mom dropped him off at school and told him to have a great day, not knowing that their lives would soon change forever.
Active Shooter the podcast is a High Five Holly production, and I'm your host, JT. If you've listened to our prior episodes, you know that the Active Shooter podcast team has taken the No Notoriety pledge, and we will not be sharing the real name of the shooters that we cover. We will be giving the shooters a pseudonym and refer to them by that name throughout the episode. This will help in clearing up any confusion in the story, while remaining true to our pledge in not naming the shooter by their actual name. We will refer to today's shooter as Daniel.
On the evening of January 22, 2018, the night before the deadly attack, Daniel decided that the next day would be the day. He had been thinking about it for quite some time, thinking of it as a kind of odd experiment, which is what he would later tell police. Daniel made the final decision on the evening of January 22nd. He was going to kill. In his mind, there was no turning back. Plan cemented. Daniel went into his mom and stepdad's room and took his stepfather's pistol from a shelf in the closet. He took the gun, which was tucked safely in its case, and put it in a laundry basket. He then covered it with many clothes so it appeared as though he was merely doing some laundry. The following day, after realizing he overslept, Daniel took the gun out of the gun case and put it into a satchel-type bag he used for school. He also packed an extra magazine in case he ran out of bullets. At the last minute, Daniel also decided to pack a hunting knife that he had gotten for Christmas about a month prior. He thought he could use this weapon if the bullets ran out, and he needed protection against the other students. Shortly before 8:00 a.m., Daniel was dropped off at Marshall County High School in Draffenville, Kentucky by his mother. He immediately went to the band room to make sure that his friends were there and not in the commons area. Daniel wanted to make sure his friends were safe and that he didn't shoot and/or kill one of them by mistake. After seeing his buddies were safely where he expected, he calmly walked towards the school's commons area. At 7:57 a.m., school surveillance shows Daniel entering the commons area, calmly setting his bag down on the ground, pulling out the firearm, and opening fire. There were around 30 students in the commons, and about 1,300 total students in the school at the time of the shooting. Witnesses said that Daniel had a lifeless look in his eyes. Yet, he knew exactly what he was doing. He didn't flinch, pause, or hesitate as he fired one shot after another.
If you can respond to Marshall County High School. Marshall County High School, active shooter. 4 people down, 1 unresponsive, the shooter still on site.
After firing multiple rounds, Daniel ran out of ammunition, dropped the gun in front of the Performing Arts Center, and attempted to blend in with the group of students hiding in the weight room. One of the students even waved Daniel into the room with them, thinking they were helping Daniel escape harm's way, not knowing they were inviting the madman into hiding with them. One of the students in the weight room recognized Daniel as the shooter and told the teacher that he was the triggerman. The teacher called 911, letting the dispatcher know that she identified the shooter.
It keeps replaying in my head, hearing the pop, like the pop, 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 sound like firecrackers.
Outside of the weight room, students were racing from the school, running for their lives. They dropped whatever it was they were carrying. Phones, backpacks, and lunchboxes littered the school's hallways.
I took out my headphones and turned around, and everyone was just broken up. They were running. I saw the flashes from the gunshots, and by that time I was just running.
Many of the students ran to nearby local businesses, with about 100 students gathering at a used car lot, while others ran to McDonald's, which was about a mile away. Many of the fleeing students slipped on the floors due to a variety of spilled beverages, mixed with blood, all of which were covering the floors.
Everybody started running and stuff. I saw people getting shoved down. There was a lot of blood everywhere. It was horrible.
A technical building located on campus was another safe place where the students gathered to escape the rampage. At 7:59 a.m., just 2 minutes after the shooting started, the first 911 call was made. Within 5 minutes, over 100 first responders and police were on the scene. 18 people were injured, 14 by gunfire, and an additional 4 were injured while fleeing the scene. 2 students lost their lives.
And we heard screaming, and all of a sudden you see people trampling over each other to get out the doors.
At 8:06 a.m., Daniel was taken into custody by Marshall County Sheriff's Department Keith Byers. He didn't resist in any way, and only said the words, quote, "It was me. I did it." 3 officers escorted Daniel to a patrol car, and at 8:11 a.m., police reported to dispatch that they had one in custody. Police instructed Daniel to lay down in the back seat of the patrol vehicle for officer safety. Daniel did as he was told, giving officers no trouble.
And he was apprehended by the sheriff's department here on site at the school, thankfully before any more lives could be taken.
Meanwhile, Daniel's mom was still driving home after dropping him off at school. While she was driving, she received a phone call from Daniel, stating there was a shooting at the school, and he was scared. She told him to get down and hide. She turned around and would be on her way. "I love you," she said to her son. About 10 minutes later, she arrived at the school and ran up to the yellow crime scene tape that now hung around the school's perimeter. She began calling Daniel over and over again, without success. At this point, Daniel had already been arrested, though his mom didn't know that yet. Daniel's mom was an editor for the local newspaper called the Marshall County Daily, and knew this would be the headlining story of the day, or even for the coming weeks. As she was about to leave, she overheard someone say that Daniel, her son, was the shooter.
So I said, and when I did, one of the gentlemen standing there looked at me and said, "That's the shooter."
No, it couldn't be. Just hearsay, she thought. Then at 9:15 a.m., just as she was about to leave, her husband called, saying that the police were at their home. Her heart dropped, thinking that Daniel was a victim of the shooting and had been hurt. He said he would talk with the officer and give her a call back in a few minutes. When he called back, Daniel's stepdad stated that it was Daniel. He was the suspect and had been taken into custody. He also said that their handgun was missing.
He told me that they believed he was the shooter and that the gun was missing.
Daniel's mom immediately went into shock, dropping to her knees and shaking from the news she had just received. She even got physically ill and began throwing up. A firefighter took pity, offering up his coat to cover her. As mentioned, 2 students lost their lives during Daniel's rampage. Bailey Holt and Preston Cope, both 15 years old, went to school that day, not knowing that they would not make it home. Bailey died at the scene and showed no signs of life at the school. Preston was airlifted to Vanderbilt University Medical Center, where he was declared deceased from a non-survivable gunshot wound to the brain. Injuries to the other students were gunshot wounds ranging from the arms, chest, abdomen, and head. It is truly a miracle that more students did not lose their lives that day.
Several of the patients came intubated already, meaning they had a tube already in there helping them breathe. They were awake but sedated. And so when this happens to you, everything shuts down. And it's going to take a long time to heal, both physically and mentally, from these kind of issues for these kids.
Active shooter, reports of an active shooter,
active shooter, mass casualty incidents.
Active shooter, reports of an active shooter,
mass casualty incidents.
15-year-old Bailey Nicole Holt was born on May 15, 2002, in Paducah, Kentucky. She was a member of the Bethlehem Baptist Church. Bailey was described as a perfect, sweet soul whose death left an unbearable hole in her family. Later, Bailey's mom reported that she called her daughter's cell phone when she heard of the shooting, but she didn't answer. Bailey called her back, and when her mother answered the phone, Bailey's voice wasn't on the other end. Instead, all she heard was a loud commotion and voices